When wages go up, what happens is the cost of the employer goes up, or the employee goes up, the cost to the employer goes up, and the employer has to analyze their situation and say, if I modernize, if I replace this individual, this person with technology, can I improve things? Can I lower my overall cost? We used to go into McDonald's and there were people up front waiting on us. They'd get our beverages, they'd serve us. Nowadays, you can go and order on your phone. You go into McDonald's, you can go into a kiosk and enter your order, and they deliver it out. And a lot of times, you don't even really see a person. You pay for it with your debit card, and you can pick up your order. And that can happen. The Grubhub and DoorDash and the Uber Eats and all those can go in and pick the order up and take it out and deliver it without even really interacting with people. And what's happened is the owner of the McDonald's has looked and said, my cost of labor is this, my cost of modernization is that. As the cost of labor goes up, the value of that labor doesn't change unless they raise the prices. So instead of raising the prices, so labor goes up, they look at the cost of the machinery, they look at the cost of the technology and say, is there value in buying the equipment to replace the worker? And more that's happening. And with AI and technology, a lot of technologies out there, they're moving from manually inspecting things to digitally. One of the things that happens in Boeing, for example, just down the road here, is that used to be that every part coming through would be visually inspected. A person would look at to make sure that it was conformed with the standards that were there. Now they can run it through on a computer, and a computer can take multiple pictures of it and digitally and almost instantaneously analyze that situation, analyze that part to see if it meets the standards. So the labor has been replaced with the technology that makes things more efficient and quicker. And in the case of laying off the workers, it makes it more efficient labor-wise. One of the things to take into consideration, though, is that years ago, we had a technology that would replace labor in a small town. We were using a stainless steel container that carried fruit puree to a dairy manufacturer that was producing ice cream, and used the fruit puree for flavoring the ice cream. And what they did is they take this. Let's start all over again. So years ago, we had a situation where we tried to introduce a new technology in a small town with a large dairy. And the dairy at the time was using 5-gallon pails of fruit puree. Somebody climb up a ladder and dump it into the large bins to mix it up with the ice cream or with the milk to make a berry flavored ice cream. What we had was a big stainless steel tank that could come in and carry 211 gallons versus the 5 gallons. It could hump into the bottom of the container, it could mix. And what it was very efficient. Decreased the amount of labor, decreased the amount of injuries from climbing up the ladder, decreased the plastic tubs that were not sustainable and replaced it with stainless steel. But the owner of the factory said, I can't do that. I can't do that because I am the only major employer in town. And if I lay off people, I may save money here, but my reputation in town goes down. And all of a sudden, I've got to fight City Hall. I've got to fight the people. And my reputation is one of greed, where I'm trying to improve the technology at the cost of the employees. So that happens a lot. We had a situation with our Austrian container manufacturer. In 2008, all of his major customers, many that take 2,000 and 3,000 containers a year, said, we're put everything on hold. Stop. We can't take anymore. The economy's changed. We need to wait. So all of a sudden, he had 8,000 to 12,000 orders that weren't going to happen that year. He had a factory that he had to keep working, and he was in a small town in Austria. And if he went back, and from a business standpoint, it made sense for him to go back and lay off people to cut the labor. But he couldn't do that because he was the major employer in town, and he looked and said, I have a social responsibility to employ these people. So he worked with different things and tried to change it to where he didn't have to lay people off. So again, numbers tell you one thing, data and details tell you one thing, but you have to, an advantage will tell you one thing. You may have an advantage one way, but you also have to weigh the social aspect. You have to weigh the things that don't pay off in dollars and cents, but pay off in value to the business and value to the people that work for the business. Because at the end of the day, businesses are people. You need to consider how those people are. A motivated and happy employee produces for the company.